Hi, everybody. It's Dr. V here. Welcome to tonight's Inner Circle call. I'm super excited to have you here. Let me do my housekeeping here really quick for you and make sure that everybody can jump in and say hello. I just need to open up the chat. And if you're joining us on social media, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. I have my team helping me tonight. So if you have any questions, you can jump in. But I welcome you to say hello, both if you're live streaming and if you're live streaming on Facebook or one of the social media platforms, or if you're here directly on Zoom with us, please jump in and say hello. I've got the chat open. Jennifer, my foot miraculously is doing better. I was sure that I broke my foot. I didn't get to tell Krisstina this when we were chatting right before we got on, but I rolled my foot chasing the grandkids 3 days ago, and I was sure I broke my foot. I was certain I broke my foot. And I started doing red light therapy. I had BPC 157 peptides in the fridge. I had some CJC with ipamorelin in the fridge. Those are all peptides. I started jumping on all that stuff really quickly. And then I asked for prayers in my Crusaders for Health. That's Jennifer, that's I think how you knew. I don't normally do that. And I was just like, somebody please pray for me, because we know that there's a lot of power in the intention of prayer. And so thank you for that, for asking, Jennifer. My foot feels so much better. And I think I'm going to be able to do some hiking with the kids this weekend because we're all going camping. So thank you for asking me about that. So I think my foot's doing good. Hi, Libby, Marilyn, Louisa. I see a lot of new names. Thank you for joining us today. Wendy, hello, Wendy. I was thinking about you today, Wendy May. I was thinking about you, honey. And I'm wondering, what are you doing and how are you since we talked last? Deborah, I recognize your name, Deborah Morrow. Charlotte, thank you for being on with us. So a few more things I want to mention. It looks like most of you already know the Zoom housekeeping, but for those of you who are here for the first time, there is a chat icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And if you click on that, a little pop-up will come up on the right-hand side. It's the chat box, and you can jump in and you can say hello. And please say hello. I want to see you. Thank you for joining us. And let us know where you're from. Second, I'm sure that we're going to get questions, and we encourage them. Please ask them in the Q&A. So there's another little icon or button down at the bottom that says Q&A. Ask them in there so that they don't get lost in the chat, and we'll get to as many as we can for this evening. So let's go ahead and let's get started. I first want to introduce to you my soul sister, my dear friend, like my sister from another mother, Krisstina Wise. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Krisstina. And let me just give you a little bit of an introduction. I didn't have one written out yet, so I'm winging this one just from what I know about Krisstina. Krisstina is a money advisor. She's a money coach, and this woman lives what she teaches. And this is why I wanted to invite her on to come and talk. And I'll tell you even more so why this is so relevant right now. But she not only helps so many people, she's helped me, my son, who is grown and has 2 children and a wife. He has consulted with Krisstina. She is to finances and building wealth as to like what I do with holistic health. We don't learn in traditional medical school what really works to reverse diabetes, to reverse chronic illnesses and autoimmune diseases. They don't teach that in medical school, right? And so what I do is the alternative model that actually works. What Krisstina does with teaching people how to manage their money and how to manage their finances, what she teaches really works. It's not the traditional stuff that we're taught in school that really doesn't work. If it worked, we would all be super wealthy, but it doesn't work. And that's why so many of us struggle. And so, Krisstina, welcome, 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 welcome. I think this is so relevant because, as I just mentioned, Krisstina, there are so many people who we're not taught how to manage our money. And oftentimes when we start making money or we come into money, we end up losing it because we invested in the wrong places or we spend it in the wrong places. And so thank you so much for taking the time to be on and to speak to us tonight about this. And where do you want to start with this whole conversation?
Yeah, thank you so much, Elena. And thank you everyone for showing up. I know this is normally a health circle, so to show up at night to talk about money like fills my heart. And I want to give you everything I've got during our time together. And just like Elena said, I will stay on as long as you guys have questions. I've really opened up my evening for, Elena's tribe. And I'm just passionate about this topic because money is not taught in school. Financial literacy is not something that we have because it's not taught in school and our parents don't know anything about money. And all we've really learned is get a job, make money, and figure the rest out on your own. And what that does is it sets most people up to what I call month to month, meaning no matter how much money we make, we're on that month to month cycle, that paycheck to paycheck. And it leaves us feeling fearful, scared. It produces anxiety. It creates frustration. It creates burnout. It makes us feel dumb sometimes, shameful. I mean, there's all these feelings. It creates crisis in marriages. It causes so much crisis in marriages. It causes divorces. So there's this one thing called money that has so much power over our lives. And usually it's negative power. And the shame about that is that money is something that with just a little bit of knowledge and education and a skill set that we can all easily learn, it doesn't have to be that way. Money, as opposed to health, is pretty easy to reverse. So just like health, when we have these symptoms, and these symptoms are showing us that something's wrong with our body, money has symptoms that show us something's wrong with our body of money, so to speak. And the symptoms are the month to month. The symptoms are the frustration. The symptoms are we never feel like we're getting ahead. The symptoms are that, again, we're having this anxiety and crisis and whatever frustration or problem that we're having. Those are all the symptoms of the core thing about money that we don't understand. And that's what I'm going to talk about today is the root cause of our money problems. Because if we can fix the root cause, all the symptoms are going to magically go away. And money and health are so aligned. And so much so that when you look at the etymology of the word wealth and health, they source up to the same thing. It's a word called wheel, W-E-I-L. And it means wealth, like being well, W-E-L-L. And so at the very beginning, just even in biblical times, it said two things, like health is wealth, but then having wealth, meaning money, is feeling well, W-E-L-L or W-E-I-L. So even these two words have the same origins. They just took different splits. So part of my story, like all of us, we have lots of story. But imagine this, I was an icon in the real estate industry. An icon, I mean, I was on the stock exchange when Zillow went public because I was advising Zillow. The names, I was advising DocuSign, that back then nobody was using DocuSign, and I was helping DocuSign enter the real estate industry. I was an advisor to companies like them. I don't know if you ever heard of a company called Redfin, but I was an advisor to Glenn, the founder of Redfin, and on and on and on. And I was a household name in the real estate industry at a national level. I spoke on all the biggest stages. I was known as an innovator. I won Innovator of the Year awards. I was the top 100 real estate leaders in the country. So I'm just sharing that story because here I was And I had sacrificed everything for these accolades. So what happened after all of that is I was on stage doing the keynote opening speech of the real estate conference of the top leaders, some I just named, in the industry. I was doing a keynote speech, and I don't remember what it was, but it was such an honor. And the fact that I was a keynote speaker was, I mean, the backup to me at the time was the CMO of Virgin Airlines. So, I mean, this was the people they were bringing in, and I was right there with them opening up. I mean, she and I were in the green room talking about Virgin Airlines. So I had rehearsed this. There was such an honor and such a huge deal to be on the stage that I'd practiced it, got speaking coaches and all the things. And I go on stage and I'm speaking to this audience. And I mean, I'm nailing it. It's like Broadway, right? Hitting the mark. And about 80% of the way through this speech, I hear this screech and like this sound in my head. And it threw me off for like 3 seconds. And I mean, I just was stunned for a second. And then I came to, and then I somehow found out where I was in my head and looking at the audience. And then I get back and I finish my talk. And the audience probably was none the wiser. It happened pretty fast, but it was this really weird, like 5 to 10 second gap. And then I get off stage, I get a standing ovation, I get off stage, and I kid you not, there is a break right after that. I'm walking out the door, out of the conference room doors, and people are grabbing at me and they're saying, Krisstina, can we book you for this? Can we book you for that? And I mean, and this was the highlight of my entire career. Like I'd sacrificed so much for this, and I'd worked so hard and everything for this moment. In walking out that door, I was thinking, Krisstina, girlfriend, you fucking made it. You made it. You started in a trailer home. You were abandoned when you were 14 years old. And you're at this moment where you've made it to the top and everybody wants you. You've done it. You've done it. So then I thought I'd done it. But the moral of the story is I get back to my hotel room and I was really shaky. All of a sudden, my body started doing these, feeling very weird. I got very scared because I knew something was off and wrong. And I was supposed to go back later this afternoon, and I got a plane home. And from there, my health completely disintegrated. So I went from being at the very top to fighting for my life within 2 weeks. And it's a whole long story of how that happened. But what happened on stage is I had a TIA. So I had a mini stroke on stage in front of all those people. And somehow I got it together. But that was the unraveling of the perfect storm of all these other health issues that I'd been burying and not paying attention to. And so what came out of that is so much that leads me to why I'm here today and doing this work, is that so many lessons came out of that. But for me, one thing that happened is I'd sacrificed my health for wealth and for money, and chasing the money and grabbing for more and more. And it was always a more conversation. No matter where I was never satisfied. And I had to do the next level. And I was just pushing myself to all the limits. I was doing all the wrong things. Then I have to come to Elena to fix me, because I was so broken. But the couple things that came out of that is that this twofold kind of polarity is I went through almost a year of being misdiagnosed. I'd never been on a pharmaceutical in my life. And by the end of that, I was on like 6 and really heavy dose. I was like on 2 anxiety medications. I was on 2 sleeping medications. I was on a depression medication because they thought it was in my head. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. My hair completely fell out. I mean, my receding airlines, I dropped weight. weighed like 87 pounds. I weigh like 120 now. So I mean, on and on. And nobody could figure out what was wrong. And I was slowly dying. My organs were shutting down. I couldn't keep food down. And many of you probably have been in very similar situations. And what I learned, interestingly enough, is that I was so much after the money. I just took my health for granted. And what I didn't realize until the time is that no matter how much money you have, when you're sick, all you want is your health back. My status didn't matter. My success didn't matter. My possessions didn't matter. I just wanted to be healthy again, and I didn't know how to do it. What the irony of that is that I didn't care about the money or the success. I just wanted my health back. But it was my money that actually afforded me to pay for all the things that ultimately got me diagnosed and got my health back. And going through that experience, then I realized that I'd been studying money my whole life and studying wealth my whole life, but really for the wrong reasons, because I wanted to showcase my wealth. I wanted to be important. I wanted to have the right cars. I wanted to look a certain way, because the way I grew up, I always felt like I wasn't enough. And so I was always on this quest to be more and to try to measure up based on how much money I had and what I drove and the house that I lived in and all the things, and realized that none of that mattered. But also what happened to me when I got sick is that I couldn't work and my business couldn't function. So all my income went away. And what enabled me to financially survive during that time was my passive income that had come from my wealth creation. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Is I'm going to talk about the importance of money and the importance of wealth, and how we solve the root problem, but for the right reasons. There's these three categories of life that we can't opt out of. And these three categories of life affect and influence our quality of life. And they're the same for all of us. And we know these. One of those buckets is health. So I learned the hard way. Many of us have learned the hard way. But when we don't have our health, we don't have wealth, or wealth doesn't matter. So we have to take care of our health, and we have to get healthy, and healthy takes money. I mean, these things are intertwined. So then the second thing we can't opt out of are relationships. So that's why having quality relationships and focusing on that and taking care of them and learning how to be good in a relationship. And relationship and monies go hand in hand. That many relationships that have money problems, it causes problems in the relationships. And the third bucket that we can't opt out of is money. And money affects their quality of life, plain and simple. How we feel about it, our hangups around money, whatever the case is, like money doesn't care. So I've just discovered from my own life is that part of adulting and really working to create the best life possible, we have to learn about health, and what we have to want to take care of our health and invest in our bodies and invest in ourselves in a way that allows us to be healthy. I didn't invest in myself. I just extracted. And my body finally said, F you, I'm done, So I learned that my body's my number one investment. And so I invest a lot in my body now. Same for our relationships. If we invest in our relationships, time and attention and love and care and concern, our relationships can flourish. But then there's this money thing. Money, this is the same thing, is that when we learn about money and when we understand money and when we develop this really good relationship with money, money takes care of us. But we've not learned how to do that. So that's what I do today, is coming out of that experience and that story. It caused me to realize that I wanted to teach this money thing and teach it from the place of why money is important, but not to buy a bunch of shit and not to make ourselves necessarily look important to everyone else out there. All right, so what I'm going to share today is what I call, this is how we solve the root problem to our money situation. And again, we're going to the root. And the root problem stems around not understanding these 4 principles of money. So this is really simple. What I'm going to share with you is really simple. It's really simple to learn. It's very simple to understand, and it's very simple to implement. But very few people ever learn them. And if they learn them, do they actually abide by them? And only 10% of Americans in this country are millionaires, and far fewer, like 1 to 2%, are actually financially free. And what I mean by financially free is that you don't have to go to work because you have the passive income that pays for your lifestyle. So put a 1 in the chat box if you want to be financially free. If freedom, having financial freedom, financial independence, feeling financially secure, if this is important to you. And only put a 1, I mean, if it's really important to you. All right, so I see lots of 1s. Awesome. Yes, keep the 1s coming, keep the 1s coming. So here, yes, I love this. So here's the thing. Every one of us, every one of you, we can all be financially free. It's available to all of us. Truth, that's a truth. Why? Because money's simple. What I'm going to share with you tonight, it's so easy to understand. But why then? We all have raised our hands with our number 1s. We've all said we want to be financially free. And why is it then somewhere, let's say between 1 and 10% of us, of a country, but less than 5%, it's only 1% that are millionaires, and millionaires is not, being a millionaire is not being financially free. I'll just share what financially free means. But then somewhere between 1 and 10%, probably somewhere, like I said, 1 to 3, maybe 5% of all Americans are financially free. Do you see the disparity there? Why do 100% of us want to be financially free, but then only, let's say 1 to 5% of us are, and I say that because financial freedom has a different number for different people, but are actually financially free. Again, this root problem, it's the same problem why in this country there's obesity, there's an epidemic of diabetes, there's an epidemic of autoimmune disease, there's an epidemic of so much disease because we're not taught how to be healthy, and all the stuff that's fed to us is keeping us unhealthy until we learn to be otherwise. So that's why the statistics, Americans are overweight and they're broke. So we're not going to fit in that category. All right, so first of all, I want to share with this, it's very important to know that there is something called income and something called wealth. So in the chat box, put down, like, what does wealth mean to you? So if you hear the word wealth, what does the word wealth mean? And give me like a definition. Like, is there a definition to what wealth means? Because wealth, when we're working towards wealth, we're building wealth to become financially free. So these two things go hand in hand. All right, so I see abundance. Perry says abundance. What else? Wealth means no worries for the rest of your life. Yes, no financial worries. It's not going to take care of all worries, but yes, no financial worries. Free time. Yes. Wealth is to have what you need when you need it. Yes. These are all parts of wealth. Anybody else? So what if we try to pull a definition out of the dictionary? Being able to live at a level that would be comfortable for the rest of my life. We're getting close there. Prosperity in all areas of life. So I'll make a micro distinction, financial wealth, because yeah, health is wealth, being great relationships is wealth. There's a lot of types of wealth, but let's talk about financial wealth. Enough to freely share, prosperity in all areas. All right, so these are all true, absolutely. So financial freedom, we're not after financial freedom, we're after our time. So financial freedom equals time. And what that means is this is what wealth is. So wealth can be boiled down to a number. So wealth, I'm going to talk about that, but wealth can be boiled down to a number. So where we say the word abundance, abundance means something maybe different to me than it means to Lena, that means different to you. So abundance just means plenty. Abundance doesn't really mean anything. It just means abundance. There's plenty. And we've heard the difference between an abundance and a scarcity mindset. But that's true. There's an abundance of money available. There's abundance of wealth. And that's a mindset. That means, I know it's true. I know there's abundance. There's so much financial abundance available to all of us. We do not live in a scarce universe. We live in an abundant universe. So many times we have to fix that scarcity mindset. Now, wealth reflected as a number means, it's another word for that is called, in financial terms, is called net worth. So net worth is something I'm going to talk about too. But that net worth is what wealth is. And to be financial, so to know how wealthy you are, here I'm going to give you some math. Very simple math. All right. So this is how you can determine how wealthy you are. Think about, first of all, calculate how much it costs. Think about how much it costs to live your life on a month-to-month basis. Just take a minute. If you want to put it in the chat box, do, but you might not want to put that, but just write it down. Just take a good guess. If you don't already know the numbers, how much does it cost you to live your lifestyle on a monthly basis? And what I'd like it to be a very accurate number, but for the sake of this exercise, just write down a number. How much is it? $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month? But just write down a number. Okay, 5 to 6, 6,000. Awesome. Yeah. And that's going to be pretty close. Not sure. Anybody else? Just put in some numbers here, just so that we can do the exercise. And it doesn't have to be accurate. 5,000. Excellent. Anyone else? Yeah, and thank you for engaging with me. It makes my 4,000. It makes it much more fun for me. All right, so all over the place. 10,000. Great. All right, so let's use to keep a round number, because I'm really good with money and I love money, but I'm not great with math. So there you go. You don't have to be great with math and can still be really good with money. All right, so let's use $10,000 to keep the math easy. All right, so now we know in column A that it costs us $10,000 a month, or whatever your number is. Now I want you to think of what you have that has value that you could sell. So if I said, Elena, starting tomorrow, you cannot work for your income ever again. You are 100% unemployed. You cannot go to job. You cannot go create a business, and you're permanently unemployed. So if I say that, what, for everybody as part of this exercise, what you want to do is calculate how much cash or assets or things you can sell do you have available? So, and how much is that worth? And where the part B is where your lifestyle doesn't change. So saying you want to live in your same house, and maybe you want to drive your same cars, and you want to do a lot of the things that you currently do. What do you have that you could sell, and how much would it be worth? So let's just say, and you probably can't, you're not going to sell your house because you live in your house. You need to keep a roof over your head. So most of us, we can't sell our house. So if we have equity in our house, it doesn't matter. But what else? But if you have a piece of real estate, an investment piece of real estate that's got $500,000 of equity, that'd be worth $500,000. If you have some stocks that you could sell whatever the value of those are. If you have some old baseball cards that have value, you could sell those. If you have some jewelry that you're no longer attached to, you could sell that. But the idea then is to calculate how much do you have that you could sell for cash today, and just take a look at that. So let's just say we have 200,000 of things that we could sell, divided by 10,000 equals 20. So what that means is you have 20 months worth of wealth. Did you follow that? If you had $200,000 of just asset value that you could sell, and you could go turn it in for $200,000, you divide that by $10,000 it costs to live your month, to live each month, and you'd have 20 months that you wouldn't have to, the 20 months of your life would be fully covered. So you're 20 months wealthy. Now, when you do that, it's a very important exercise to do, because this is like the diagnostic. It's like when you guys are taking labs and getting your blood work. This is part of the money diagnostic, where we have to look at, sometimes it's a holy shit moment. Maybe it's like, it's not as bad as I thought it was, whatever the case is, but that's the labs. The labs, you get your blood work in your labs, and the labs tell a story. So now, once we have a diagnostic, now we can say these are things we can do to start fixing the problem. So 20 months. So what that means then that, in this case, it's like you could live 20 months, your lifestyle doesn't change and you wouldn't run out of money. But on month 21, what happens? On month 21, you're out of money. So how do you pay all your bills? So that's what retirement is. Retirement is being unemployed after a certain age. So in retirement, we think, oh, when I'm age 65 or 70, or I'm never going to retire. But most of us, if not all of us on this call, have had health issues. And when you've got health issues, many times you're out of the money game like I was, whether you want to or not. And we probably don't want to work forever, even if we love what we do, like I do. So where we want to get to financial freedom is where it's not 20 months, it's 20 years or 30 years before you run out of money, by the time you stop working, and that your lifestyle is fully paid for. So that's what retirement is. Retirement is unemployment. You're unemployed for 20 or 30 years if you were to do a typical retirement type mindset. But financial freedom is the same thing. We're just not waiting necessarily to a certain age. We're creating financial freedom. And what financial freedom means I have those assets that have a value. That value of those assets covers the cost of my $10,000 lifestyle. It's the same thing as a trust fund. So if you have a trust fund, what's the difference? If I don't know, put in a 1 if you know anybody if you've had any friends that have had a trust fund before, or even if you have a trust fund. So if you have a trust fund or you're going to inherit a lot of money, this doesn't necessarily apply to you, but for the rest of us that don't, yeah, awesome. So here's the trust fund. So I had a friend that had a trust fund in college, and I didn't really understand it at the time, but her college was fully paid for. She had her little convertible BMW that, we were all jealous of, and she paid for the drinks, and she did a lot of, she's a great friend to have, but her trust fund completely paid for her life, for example, in college. And after college, we stayed friends after college. So what that is her grandparents actually, who were in Reno and were in the gambling business, I guess. They had casinos, and the grandparents started in Reno, had these casinos, and did very well financially. They had all these assets, and they put all the grandchildren into these trust funds, gave them these trust funds. And what the grandkids did, and Jenny, my friend, was one of those, they each got $125,000. This was like 20 years ago, from the interest from those assets, the money. And they each of the 3 grandkids, there were 3 girls, each got $125,000 a year. So what that means is, as long as their life didn't cost more than $125,000 a year, what did they have that you and I don't have? What did she have that you and I don't have? Put it in the box. Peace of mind. She had peace of mind, yes, because her bills were paid for. Freedom of worry, because her bills were paid for. Financial freedom, yes. Rich grandparents, yeah, she had rich grandparents that we didn't have. Absolutely. Time freedom, security. Smart grandparents, yes, but we want to be the smart grandparents. Free time, right? So even if we didn't get it, we can do this for our kids or grandkids, or we can teach our kids to do it for themselves and their kids. Stability, residual income. So do you see what you guys outside the fun ones, which are the rich grandparents, but that's what she has. She has time freedom. She has free time. She has stability, the residual income, freedom from worry, and peace of mind. So when we think we want financial freedom, we say we want it, but what we want is freedom of worry, financial freedom. We want time, security, freedom from worry, more free time. We want that stability. That's what we want. Financial peace of mind is huge. And it takes care of so much. Like, we don't understand, even because we're not spending enough time thinking about money in a way to make it successful for our lives, that we live a life with so much financial worry, no closer to any peace of mind. And that's what I want to help you do. I want to help you get to the place of complete financial peace of mind. And it's doable. Like I said, I started in a trailer home. I was abandoned at 14. I can't tell you, like many of us, the drama and trauma and the shit show and the ups and downs and all the stuff that life has thrown at me specifically. But what I've done is once I learned these, I followed these 4 principles. And today I'm completely financially free. So the reason why I'm sharing that with you is I'm sharing that this is an example. I've lost all of my money twice, like millions of dollars twice, from just stupid mistakes, divorces, all sorts of things that have kind of factored into this of divorces. So that's nothing to be proud of, but that's part of the story. But these principles now that I'm going to talk about, I always go back to the principles, and I'm not losing my money ever again. Those were things, and I've learned those lessons. But each time after I've lost those, I've built it back like 5 times as fast because I know what I know. So this is what the 4 principles are. The principles are laws. These are rules. It's akin to saying you can't live on sugar, breakfast, lunch, and dinner and be healthy. There might be the exceptions to the rules every day, but there's these rules. Our body has this intelligence in these rules. And those rules of our body says you can't smoke cigarettes, you can't smoke 2 packs a day, you can't sit in a chair and not move, and you can't eat sugar all day long and be healthy. And in fact, if you don't like the fact that you have to move, that you can't eat sugar, and that whatever unhealthy things we can think of to do, whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, our body doesn't care. Our body is going to react accordingly. We're going to get diseased. So money gets a disease state. The same thing. So it's to understand that money has these rules and you have to follow them, just like our body has rules and you have to follow them unless there's serious consequence. So they're non-negotiable is what I'm saying. So here's principle number 1. Number one says, you have to know your numbers. So you have to know your numbers. And there's the number that is called what I call your financial freedom number. So everybody who put a 1 in the box, if you want to be financially free, you have to know your financial freedom number. It doesn't happen by accident. Health doesn't happen by accident. If we're going to be optimally healthy, we take care of our health intentionally. If we're going to be wealthy and have financial freedom, we take care of our money intentionally. And it starts with knowing how much money is enough to be financially free. And that is, I think, the most important money question we can ask ourselves and we need to know the answer to. Now, I have a guidebook. I didn't normally have it on my desk, but I have this little workbook that if you want it, just let Elena know or let me know, and I'll send that to you. But it's a little workbook that's a guide that's going to help you determine what your financial freedom number is, because you need to know it and it's not obvious how to arrive at that number. But that financial freedom number, that's your stake in the ground. We can't get anywhere where we don't know where we're going. So you have to know that your financial freedom number, if you ever want it, so that you can have a plan and a strategy and a methodology and the intentions and all the things that are heading that direction versus not. So you have to know how much money's enough. And if I say, go ahead and put in there, if you put in there, how much money is enough? Give me an answer just to play around here, since you guys are so great. You're so engaged. How do you factor how much money is enough? So if I say right now, how much money is enough? How do you know how to calculate that number or come up with a number? Do you have a number? Okay, so Jason says 7.2 million. Awesome. So Jason, I'd love to talk to you at some point and say, 7.2 million, like how'd you derive that number? But the fact that Jason has a number means most likely he's done a few calculations. Hard to say without knowing how the economy is going to go up. So the economies are going to change, but regardless of what the economies do, you still need a number so that you know where you're getting close, you know the direction you're headed. Using the economy as a reason not to do this just means we're never going to have financial freedom. So 1.5 million, I don't know it because prices always go up. We can factor in for inflation and these different things. So when you do this work, you can actually come up with a number. All right, so Cecilia says 1,100 a month, 1.8 million. All right, so great, 2 million. Excellent, excellent. 5 million, awesome. So great, so we know how much money's enough. Now, that's what I call a financial freedom net worth number. And for those of you that are putting numbers in, awesome. So you've done some work here, or maybe you've worked with an advisor or somebody like me. For everybody else that doesn't have a number, the number, how much net worth we have doesn't really matter. So let's say I have $10 million of net worth. So that $10 million of net worth cannot buy my groceries. I'm a big real estate investor. I own a lot of real estate. And in fact, I just closed on a property today. I was telling Elena about it. And I'm buying another one tomorrow in Park City, another investment property, and did a 1031 exchange and fun stuff, because I love playing with my money, and I'll talk more about that. But let's just say it's $10 million. So my $10 billion of real estate portfolio out there, it can't buy my groceries. It can't pay my utility bills. It can't pay for my peptides that, I get from Elena. It can't pay for the vacations I go on with Elena and all the different things. That's called net worth. So the number doesn't matter, except that that net worth produces what's called cash flow. And that cash flow is what we call passive income. So it's not the real estate portfolio that has a value of, let's say, $10 million. It's good bragging rights. I mean, that sounds good, but it's the cash that comes out of that property. And the cash that comes out of that, that let's say it's $350,000 a year. So that is the cash flow, the profit from all that real estate. So now what that means is all of that real estate over there creates $350,000 of cash for me to go spend on my lifestyle. And assuming that my lifestyle costs less than $350,000 a year, I'm financially free because my assets and all that real estate and what I own over there covers the cost of my lifestyle. And I don't have to go to work if I don't want to. So that's the cash flow. So when we're looking at this number, just a quick rule of thumb, this is based on the 4 to 5% rule as a baseline, is that for every $1 million produces, let's say, $50,000 of cash flow. So when you say $2 million, that means if you have a $2 million net worth, let's just say, and you're pulling out 5% per year, so you don't run out of money, that equals $100,000. So as long as your lifestyle costs less than $100,000, you're financially free at 2 million. So that becomes that stake in the ground. If it's $5 million, that's $250,000 that you can pull out, for example. So if you want a lifestyle of 250 of passive income, you need a $5 million-ish net worth. Those are rough numbers. We get more directed based on answering questions, but that's how you can start rolling these numbers. So to start with, like I said, the principle is you have to know your numbers, because if you know it's 2 million, can you create a plan to produce a net worth of $2 million? If you don't know what it is because we're afraid of the economy or something, are we ever going to have any probably number of net worth? No, because we need clarity. We need to know our numbers. We need to know where we're headed, because you can't have a strategy without a destination. The plan, the Google Maps helps us get to the destination. Google Maps doesn't know where to go or to take us if we don't have the address where we're headed. So that's principle number one. And know how much money is enough. And there's calculations. That workbook is what I'll offer you, that just doing the workbook is going to change your life if you've never done this work. And it's like the primary questions of my students. That the workbook is kind of the primary tool I use with my private clients. All right. Principle number 2. You ready? Anybody think what principle number 2 is? And again, I want to say good job on you, those of you that know your net worth number, your freedom number. All right, principle number 2, and I'm gonna go faster now because I've kind of really set up, I think, the point here. But rule number 2 with money is, well, let me put it this way. I'm gonna get, who wants to put in 1 if you want the secret to getting rich? All right, so Charlotte has a 1. All right, Jason has a 1, Elizabeth has a 1, Kurt has a 1, Carolyn has a 1. All right, so everybody wants to know the secret to get rich. All right, you might want to write this down. You might need to sit down because this is so profound that it's going to blow your mind. The secret to getting rich is this: you spend less than you make. That's the secret to getting rich. When it all boils down to everything I'm going to talk to you about, the secret to getting rich is to spend less than you make. So the money rule that's called, it's the law says, or the maxim, the mantra says, wealth is created in the margin. So that's the technical term. Wealth is created in the margin. Another way to say that's to spend less than you make. So how you build wealth, which is that asset value, which is that future cash flow that I've just described, that never happens by accident. It's created intentionally by following these principles. And the principle is wealth is created in the margin. And that means you have to create a surplus. That means a surplus. There needs to be a surplus between the money you bring home and the money you spend every month, because wealth is in the delta. This is where wealth lives. So if there's no delta between the money you bring home and the money you spend on each month, there's no wealth. There's no opportunity for wealth. And because we're 90% of, about 80% of our population is month to month. 78% of our country is month to month, regardless of income level. So whether we're making $50,000, $100,000, or $250,000, we're month to month, meaning there is no margin. That's why we have a country without wealth. And instead, now we even have debt on top of it. So we're month to month plus the debt. So we're out of order. So we're destroying any opportunity to get wealth versus creating wealth. And we have to reverse the cycle. We have to versus go up here where we're adding debt onto an already expensive lifestyle, meaning that debt somehow has to be paid off. We're not creating this margin that is the key to wealth. So that's the second principle. You have to create a surplus. And there's no other way unless you have the trust fund. So to create our own trust fund, we have to create that surplus. And then the follow-up question is, how much surplus do I have to create? And that goes back to knowing your numbers, of doing these very simple calculations of, oh, if I need $2 million and if I have 20 years to create $2 million, then I need to invest about $30,000. I need to invest about $24,000 a year for 20 years to be able to have that $2 million at a, just if I just set it and forget it, that's the long strategy. But as long as I save that $2,000 a month, I invest it over 20 years, I'm going to have $2 million. So what that means is that if that were your numbers, you need to know your number. What is your surplus? And you don't wait, because part of the secret to getting rich is that surplus, and it's surplus every single month for your entire life, all of your working years. And we're not told that. So what I've taught my children is, I don't care. But the day you start making money, you always create a surplus, and you get in the habit that if you have a low month or a high month, I don't care, but you have a minimum amount that you're always going to put away for the rest of your life. And you never not have a month of surplus within reason. Life happens occasionally, but you get the point. And if you do that, you will never have money problems when you're middle-aged. If you start at 25, when you're 45, you're going to have plenty of money, and where all of your peers are month to month and, stressed out and they're on their divorce and the different things, you're not going to have those money problems. You're going to have the peace of mind. by starting when you're young. So that's the gift I think I've given my children, is I've taught them these money principles that they're applying. My daughter at 27 has her second piece of real estate now. So, kids learn fast when they do this. So if we don't do it, or even if we don't think, everybody has time, but this is stuff that we can pass on. But that's the point, is you have to have a surplus. And, if you put if the kids all put $500 away by the time they're making their first $50,000 or $60,000 job, they can definitely put $500 away. You do that for 40 years, they're going to be worth between $2 and $3 million by doing nothing but putting $500 away for their whole life. Every one of us have the ability to put $500 away for our entire life, but we're never taught to do that. So we have to make it up when we're older. But that's all in the surplus. So the secret to getting rich is to spend less than you make, and that wealth is created in the margin, and you have to always have a margin. And that's with every paycheck. And when you're committed to financial freedom, is to understand that financial freedom is a commitment. We're putting a stake in the ground. Like, I'm going to be financially free. There's abundance. Freedom's what I want. I'm going to have it, and I'm going to follow these principles, and I'm going to have surplus. I'm going to create surplus. Now, what you give up when you create a surplus is you give up a few things. So you have to decide. Most Americans, again, they're like, I don't want to give up everything. I want the most expensive house I can afford. The bank says I can afford. I want the 1 or 2 car payments, and I want the car with the emblem. I want to put things on my credit card. I want to do these things. And it's a trade-off, because let's just say that Delta is, for just to make the example, let's just say it's $5,000 a month. So that's it. We can buy a lot of shit for $5,000 a month. We can have some nice cars and, car payments. We can go on some nice vacations. So that $5,000 a month that's a lot of money that can be spent. That's $60,000 a year that we could spend on things. But we're giving up the choice to spend that $60,000 so that we can create financial freedom with it, and we live off everything else. And that becomes a commitment. But the thing is if based on your peers, the people in your social networks that make the same amount of money as you do. So if you're both making $200,000, they're spending all their $200,000. Their lifestyle is going to look a little bit more expensive than yours. So we have to be willing to give up part of that, let's say, identity, because we're going to be living on a month-to-month on a little bit less, so that we're building our financial freedom. And then 10 to 20 years later, we're financially free with peace of mind, when they're still hustling and grinding and stressed out about money. So that's the exchange. So principle number 2. Principle number 3, and you see how these all work together. Principle number 3 is you have to track all your money. You have to manage it. And this is what I call the relationship with money. Your relationship with money now is very indicative of how wealthy you're going to be. So if you don't like looking at your money, you're afraid of your money, feel ashamed of the money, think money is a bad thing, these are all mindset, beliefs, and narratives we can clean up. And I help my clients do that. But regardless of whatever that is, if we abdicate our money, we procrastinate our money, we don't want to open the bills because we're afraid to see what's there. Again, these are principles. We're not going to have financial freedom and wealth, because financial freedom and wealth is intentional. And it's very much a part of our relationship with money. So your relationship with money, you want to create a relationship with money where you love counting it. That's why it's called accounting. Where you want to count your money, you count it, you appreciate it, you look at it. You look at it grow, you look at it, you talk to it. Just like we want to talk positively to our bodies, right? If we're talking trash about our bodies all the time, our body listens. It's the intelligence, it's always listening. So we want to tell our bodies, I love you and you're healing and I'm here with you and I'm going to take care of you and you're the best. I mean, I talk to my body all the time. It's kind of silly, but every morning in my meditation, I'm talking to my body saying, body, you're so healthy. You're just getting healthier all the time. I love you so much. Thank you for being so strong and taking care of me. And, that relationship with my body that I used to not have. But you want that relationship with your money the same. You talk to it and you want to love your money. Just love it for the good that it does. And your money responds just like our body responds one way when we talk negatively to it, and a different way when we talk positively to it. I don't know why it works this way, why money responds positively when I talk positively to it with this abundance mindset. And I understand vibration and frequency and all the things, but still it seems miraculous, miracles, it works that way, but it does. So that's the relationship with money. You need a really healthy relationship with it. And part of that is you track it. You need to track every dollar coming in, and you say, thank you, money, from coming in. Thank you to self for having the creative ability to go out and bring in all this financial abundance for who I am in the world that contributes. And I get this thing called money back. And so you're grateful for it. And you're grateful for your expenses, because the money that we get to spend puts a roof over our head and creates transportation and allows us to be here and have internet and do all these things. So this true gratitude and appreciation is so important to wealth. And having the feeling of vibrancy, the feeling of prosperity, the feeling of how great money is. And you do that through tracking it. So that's called money management. You have to manage your money, and you manage your money because you want to, and because you have to be able to track that surplus and know your numbers and see if you're on track and do the things. And you need QuickBooks. You need to have all your money in QuickBooks and to track it and have what I call a household profit and loss, and track how you're doing all the time, and to have a money day, really check in with your money. So that's that. Now I'm going to do the fourth principle because we're just right here at the top of the hour. Then we'll open it up to questions. So again, real quick on the tracking piece on the money management. I'll give you here what I teach again to my students and to my clients, is that part of creating a surplus is what we do is we put all of our money in kind of one account, and then we pay all of our bills, and we hope that money's left over. And if there's money left over, then we'll invest it, but there's never any money left over. So we think we have to go work harder to make more money, that maybe there'll be some money left over after that. But then there's this thing called Parkinson's law, and Parkinson's law says that expenses will always rise to match income. That's a symptom of why we never get ahead. That's why we have to follow these principles. But you need to put all of your money. So let's say you have a job and your husband has a job, and or if you're, a husband, your wife has a job, you put both of your incomes into the household account. Now, how you create a surplus is you can't spend money you don't have. So you trick the system, you trick Parkinson's law by moving all the money out of the account, almost all the money account, once you deposit it. And you move it into buckets, because money needs roles. It needs these jobs to do. Just like if you had 5 employees, you give them 5 jobs. Or if you have 2 kids, you give them 2 chores, right? You don't have them fighting over the same chores. But so you bring all your income in, and you need these different accounts. You attach them to QuickBooks. You can track all your money and how it's all flowing in and out, because money needs to move. That's energy. You flow it and grow it, flow it to grow it. But you need an investing bucket, which means you move that surplus out of your main account. You put that into your investing bucket to make sure you always have enough to invest. If you have a 401k, you don't max, and you make sure that you're still investing enough to make sure that you're going to hit your financial freedom number, because most 401ks aren't enough or even close to enough. So that's that bucket. You have your rainy day buckets. You're going to move money out of your household accounts, so you have those rainy day funds. And you're going to have what's called your dreams bucket. And this is your dreams, which are vacations or home remodels, or just these expensive lifestyle expenses that are kind of out of the month-to-month budget. And you move money out of the main account into these, and you have your rainy day bucket grow every time you pay yourself. You have your dreams bucket grow every time you pay yourself. And you have your investment buckets grow every time you pay yourself. And then you get to live your rest of your life, the month-to-month bills, with everything that's left over. But you start to live off what's left over is how you manage your month-to-month bills, to make sure that you have enough cash to live life, to fund the accidents that happen, to fund the big dreams like taking a vacation without going into debt, and to make sure that you're on track to create your financial freedom number. So those are these different buckets, and it's called the bucketing technique, and it's a very simple way to start managing your money. But you need the system like QuickBooks that will help you do it powerfully. All right, fourth one. Got 1 more minute. The fourth one all of that is that this surplus that you create through managing money really well, through knowing your numbers and calculating how much that is, you have to put that money to work. So financial freedom is not about your job and how hard you work. The answer to all of your money problems is not to make more money. The answer to all your money problems is to create a surplus and invest that surplus over time to create financial freedom. And we have to rearrange everything to make this happen. Again, only if we want to be financially free, because money works harder than we do. Money works 365 days a year, 24/7, doesn't take vacations, doesn't take sick leave, doesn't take maternity leave. It's always working. It's always compounding. There's a rule of 72 that shows you how in how many years that your income, your net worth will double at a certain interest rate. Your money can double every 5 years. Your money can double forever. It's very hard to double our incomes by working harder and going up the corporate ladder, or even if we own a business. It's practically impossible to keep doubling forever, but your money keeps doubling. That's why when you start, if we teach our kids to do this young, they're going to be uber wealthy by the time they're, middle-aged. And by the time they quote unquote retire, they're probably going to live longer than we are with all the technology and anti-aging and longevity stuff. They're going to have loads of money when we teach them how to do this and they get into the practice of it, because money grows. But it's this flat line for 10 years, and all of a sudden it starts building and that snowball effect happens. It's the only way to get rich. We're not going to get rich by working harder. We're not going to get rich by saving money and having cash sitting around, because it doesn't grow. Money multiplies through compounding. So part of your money growing is twofold. You need to keep putting money away in some type of investments that's going to grow and compound by putting that surplus in. And the goal is to never miss a payment, because you're working hard in your life and your business and your job to make enough money to live the lifestyle today and to have the surplus. You're going to have a great financially free lifestyle, peace of mind tomorrow. And the more your net worth grows, even though you might be a distance from financial freedom, I call this the money spectrum, even though your wealth, your financial freedom is way out here, as your wealth grows, more peace of mind year over year, more peace of mind, more sense of security, a little bit more time freedom. And it just grows until they match up. But over time, the reason why we do this is we keep feeling lighter. You pay off all the debt. That's the first step. You get out of debt. Then after that, you start the assets growing. And that's going to grow over time. And also what grows with that you have to have multiple streams of income. And so that's another thing, is that by multiplying your money, when you put it into these different places, it gives you additional income in addition to your hard working income. There's two types of income, working income and non-working income. So you have your working incomes, but then you get other income from investments and these other things that you're doing. And then one day, those investments start throwing off enough money that matches the cost of your lifestyle, and voila, we're financially free. So those are the 4 principles. Again, I'll just close by saying that every one of us starting today can do this. We can all do it on their own. I help my students and clients and friends go through this in a very organized and structured way to be able to set up the financial system, figure out what their numbers are, and start learning the habits and practices. But again, money is just like health. It's easy, meaning it's easy to know not to eat ice cream every day. Like, we know that, but boy, it tastes good, right? And then you think you're going to want to do 1 spoon and it turns into a pint that turns into a gallon. And so, a lot of it is just knowing, and then it's following the practices, because boy, we want to spend that extra $5,000 a month, not necessarily put it away. So that's what I have to say. Close it up. Elena, do you have anything to add or contribute? And then I'll stick around and answer any questions. If you want my workbook, that is How Much Money is Enough workbook, let me know and we'll get that to you. And yeah, and I think that we have a little financial literacy quiz if you want to take that too, just as a fun little thing to do. But otherwise, I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that. We will make sure that you guys get links, appropriate links and all of that in our YouTube, on our YouTube page at Modern Holistic Health. If you go to YouTube and type in Modern Holistic Health, we're actually live streaming it right now. We'll make sure that we do that. And for all of you who registered, we typically send out a follow-up email. We try to do it within 24 hours. Sometimes it takes us a couple days to get it out. And we'll send a follow-up email with the link back to the YouTube page. And then in the description, we'll have the links for where you can take the little survey, the money quiz, you can get the workbook. But I mean, gosh, there's so many things I could say about this. I mean, you know, let me tell all of you who are listening how, one of the first conversations that Krisstina and I had when we had an opportunity to meet, and, one of the reasons why we connected, you got to hear her story about how she got really, really sick. Both Krisstina and I are in our 50s, so we're both about the same age. And we both grew up having a lot of similarities, and working really hard to rise to the top and do everything that we could to try to create, the financial stability for ourselves and all of that. The big difference between the two of us is, so both of us ended up getting sick. We were both single mothers. We both ended up getting sick. I had 3 practices that I had started, the first one out of school, with literally the money I saved in a shoebox. There was my first thing there that shows I didn't know how to get my money to work for me. I didn't know how to do that. I saved it literally in shoeboxes under the bed. I saved all my money, and I went out and got a printer, printed out, little flyers, and literally started depositing them in parking lots in Lakeway, Texas, right outside of Austin, back when it was still a retirement community back then. That's where I started my first practice. And I worked my butt off, just like Krisstina. I grew it to 2 practices, grew it to 3. I was very much overextended. At that time, I thought, I thought I was banking on myself. I'm like, well, I will make my businesses grow, and that's how I'm going to build my wealth, because nobody taught me how to invest my money. Nobody taught me how to do any of that. And so when Krisstina and I both got sick, Krisstina knew how to manage her money. She ended up losing one of her businesses, but still had all of her investments making money for her. It took her about $500,000 to save her own life. Right. And she ended up working with me when the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on and all of the things. But she was able to recover. She had the money to take care of herself. And then she was able to continue building from there. She didn't have to rebuild from scratch. I lost everything. I lost all 3 of my practices. I lost my house. I ended up living in my car. I mean, it was just like, oh my God, it was just a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And so when Krisstina and I met and we exchanged stories, I just knew that I needed to learn from Krisstina, because I started over again in my late 40s, literally with not other than what I was doing for work, and that I was paying my rent in my apartment and all, I didn't have anything in savings. I had nothing left. And so over the years, I've had an opportunity to really, really witness that she's the real deal. And so she teaches me, she's helping me. I'm starting back over. I saw someone make a post. I'm in my 70s. Is it too late? I'm living on an income. You know what? Krisstina will have ideas for you. This woman is so creative, and she knows what she's doing. She's given me hope that I am not going to have to, ever go back to where I was before. Right. And so I just, yes, Krisstina, yes, and yes. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for teaching these strategies. Everything that you say is so relevant now. I would love to go into the Q&A, and I would love to start with the one that was asked in the chat. She's 70. I'd have to scroll back and see who it was, but 70 years old, living on her retirement type of income. Is there anything that can be done? Because we have many baby boomers out there, Krisstina, who are struggling. What kind of things can they do to help themselves get on track where they can get some financial freedom?
Yeah, so a few different things. And one, thank you, Elena. And to all of you, uh, if you would like a one-on-one consult with me or my right-hand person, Emily, who's my money advisor coach that she and I do the consults. If you'd like a one-on-one consultation, just put yes in the box and we'll send you a link to set that up. And I'll spend time with you. I'll listen to your situation and we'll come up with a solution. So yeah, awesome. So we'll get those one-on-one set up and I'll give you my best stuff. You guys are amazing and awesome. So thank you. I can't wait to talk with you. And we're gonna fix the symptoms and we're gonna get to the root of the problem and get you on the path to financial freedom. Awesome. So to answer some of these questions, and so, well, I'll answer any questions you have during our one-to-one, and I'll answer them here. So the first one, when we're 70, and it's a fixed income. So what happens is that, yeah, when in old age, we reach a point where we're on a fixed income. And a fixed income means just that. So fixed income can be Social Security, plus money we get from our 401k, plus, you know, any other asset income or something that we have. So that it may be an annuity. So that's what's called fixed income. Our financial freedom basically gives us a fixed income also. So it's another thing. So it means it's fixed, means we're mostly living off what's already there. We're not out working anymore to create more money than what's already been created. And the income that comes from the Social Security, income that comes from the annuity that we bought, the money that comes from the 401k that we invested in, those assets. So that's what we mean by fixed income. And most everybody at some age is going to be on a fixed income. You know, as we age. And so in old age, we want to be financial free, hopefully before old age, but definitely in old age, whatever that is. And old age means that our bodies just aren't in the marketplace anymore like they were. And so depending on our health and how long we plan to live, yes, we can start doing these things now, because if you plan to live to 80, you know, or just say you're going to retire at 80, in the sense that for the next 10 years, you can aggressively really start to do some things that's going to set you up better at 80 than you are at 70, because it takes time. So there's absolutely things that you can do, and there's creative stuff. I mean, I give creative ideas all the time to be able to boost some income and change that fixed income and set our future up better than our past or our current situation. So that's one. It's never too late. Never too late. Part two is sometimes, you know, if we learn some of this stuff late in life, it's like some people learn health stuff late in life, and, you know, because they learned later, they don't have as much time or resources to reverse things than if we're younger. But if we're coming across, like me, and this information late in life, that maybe it's not something that we have as much time to create the financial freedom, because compounding does take years. But what we can do is we can learn this, apply the learning to our lives that is going to affect it as much as it can in the shorter time because of our age. But then think of legacy. So what I didn't talk about tonight is legacy. And my parents were on my payroll for my entire life until they passed. So they, like I said, I started in a trailer home. My parents barely made any money, but they worked for me once I got old enough and had a business and did these different things. And it was great exchange. Like I said, I'm a real estate investor. They managed my properties. They made it super easy for me. In fact, now I manage my properties. I miss them terribly because they're my parents, and I miss them terribly because, you know, they did such a great job managing my properties. But my point of telling that story is, when my dad passed, there was no legacy. There was nothing to give. There was zero. Like, they lived off of every dollar, you know, that basically that they got. My children, so that's my parents. My children will receive an inheritance, And besides the inheritance, even if I didn't leave them an inheritance, they understand money. They understand these principles. And at 27 and 28, they're living the principles. They don't need my money because I've passed on the legacy of the knowledge that they've done this. Now their friends aren't doing what they're doing. Their friends are making good incomes, kind of, late 20s, and they're spending all their money and living the lifestyle. And my kids aren't doing that. They're doing what I'm teaching here. And they're going to be fine financially. So the reason I tell that story is that in one generation, it's gone from trailer home to not leaving anything to the kids, and in fact, being on my payroll, to where my kids will be multimillionaires on their own. So that's how fast. That's called legacy. And our legacy can be, we actually leave them a financial inheritance, their trust fund, or we leave them the knowledge, and the knowledge is worth more than the money. So at any age, if you study and do what I teach, if you have family that you could pass it on to, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, you will give them this gift that they will remember you forever. And that's something that maybe we can't use it necessarily for ourselves, but we can definitely help our children and grandchildren. And if we help our children and grandchildren, imagine the world be a better place. If, let's pretend none of us could apply this, but we could teach our children and they did it, how will their future and the future generations be better off financially than the statistics that I've given you?
And that's what I bring up all the time with the work that I do. And how many of you have heard me say that about, creating a better system and a better life for our children and our grandchildren by understanding this type of work, right? Kurt says, yes. Yeah, Lori, I talk about the same thing. And Krisstina, it's, yes, the knowledge is important, but then it's about learning how to apply it, because you can have all the knowledge that you want, but then you need to start applying it. And so, yeah, we can start applying it for ourselves, and we can start teaching it to our children and our grandchildren. That's one of the reasons that I connected my son with you, and he respects you so much because because he knows our stories, and he's like, wow, like that's pretty impressive. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Krisstina, I've been to some of her Krisstina, I've been to some of your lectures that, like in person. And one of the things that, that people get to learn when they are, working with you and going to your, to your live courses and this and that is, I remember like when you even showed like charts and made it super simple on, if they start applying these principles when they're 10 years old, this is how much that they'll have. If they start applying these principles when they're 20 years old, this is how much they'll end up having. I mean, that was incredible for me, how you broke it down like that. And it was actually super inspiring for me to get to see that. And there's so much. She's only touched the tip of the iceberg. Krisstina has. She's only touched the tip of the iceberg. And so when you start, when you follow Krisstina and you actually start really learning from her and applying what she's teaching you, she breaks it down and makes it simple, the same way that I break down and simplify all of the stuff around getting your health back and being able to sustain it.
100%. Yeah. And it is just broken down, and none of this. Health is far more complicated than money. I mean, health has so many nuances, so many things. Money is just really learnable. And Kim put in a question in regards to financial freedom. Do you see a world where everyone in the US can be financially free with the system we live in currently? So one thing to understand, I mean, I think so, but what do I know? That's a pretty big philosophical. I mean, is it possible? Yes. Is it ever going to happen? No. And there's a million reasons, because I can teach all these things, but just like what Elena was saying, if we don't apply them, then they're not going to work. And very few people want to take the time to learn and apply these principles and some of the others I've been talked about. Now, the thing is with our system currently is to understand the health system is rigged. The pharmaceutical industry owns the health industry, owns the doctors. That's why there is no root cause. It's treating the symptoms with pharmaceutical, because with prescriptions, because the pharmaceutical industry trains the doctors, owns the doctors, and puts on commercials and pays billions of dollars to brainwash us that we need this medication. And hence that's the system we're in. And we know the food system and the food supply and glyphosate is on everything. I mean, it's a rigged system. So in that rigged system, some of us have like seen through the system and been like, oh, I don't believe that stuff anymore. I don't believe in the food pyramid. I don't believe prescriptions are what's going to help me get my health back. And you're defined the system, but it's so difficult to get information and to learn outside of the system because it's the system. So money is the same way. It's the whole system out there is rigged. The whole thing about retirement and 401ks and there's no education about money. It's systemic in the sense that it's in nobody's interest out there at the big banking side that we know about money and how to become financially free. I teach how to become your own banker and these different things. That I just bought a $1.4 million house in cash. I didn't have to go to the bank. Why? Not because I have $1.4 million of cash sitting around an account, but because I've got my own banking system going on, the way I use life insurance, the way I use my investments and how I flip money. I didn't have to go to a bank to get a loan. That gives me a lot of power. That's available to all of us. But do most people know about that? No, because it's not talked about. It's not to the bank's benefit that we know how to manage our money. You know, the banks, it's all a rigged system. Do you think the banks care that you ever retire or you put your kids through college? Or, you know, if you've got extra money to invest in your health? No, they're going to, if you go get a house loan, they're going to max out. They're going to tell you, they're going to give you as much money as possible that's right against that risk line. So they're going to say, hey, we're going to qualify you up to 38% of your income on a house mortgage. And if your mortgage is 38% of your total income before taxes, you're probably going to be house poor. You're not going to have the room for that surplus. But the banks aren't going to tell you this. They want your interest. They want you to pay for your house 3 times over 30 years. And the bigger the mortgage payment, the interest rate, the banks are making bank. So anyway, long-winded answer to say, like, is it possible? Yes. Will it ever happen? No. And is anything out there like helping us learn how to do this? Not many of us. I mean, I'm out there and Atlanta's out there on the health side. I'm out there on the money side. There's other people like us, but we're the few, far and in between. So that's why it will stay. All right. Let's see.
I love that. And yes, so, let me just mention one more time while we're looking to see if there are any other questions. She went over the tip of the iceberg. It was the tip, right? She hasn't even gotten into all the different strategies. She gave you an example of some of the strategies that she used to move her money around so that she could buy that house, like the different things that she did. But when I have sat in on her seminars, I'm just amazed, like things that I never even knew that you could do. And, to Kristina's point, these are not the things that you learn. Just like, you're not learning, the things that really work for your health. So it's the same kind of stuff. How many of you enjoyed this tonight? Put a yes in the chat. I know we've been on for a while. Good. And I want you to be inspired. And thank you. I see so many names of our clients who are here. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. You ladies and men, you know I love you. And I'm honored that you're here to get to meet truly a dear friend of mine, and someone who can help you if you've been looking. Krisstina, maybe we should do a little 2-part series or something and come in and actually, teach some other things, or do like a little, I don't know, just a thought. We can talk about it later, but is there anything else in closing that you want to share? We will be sure to take whatever links that you have that you want us to share, and we'll be sure that we put it in our YouTube description, and we'll send it out in our follow-up email. But is there anything else that you want to share, Krisstina?
Just again, happy to do the one-on-one, and we got a lot of yeses, so we'll get that set up for you.
Yes.
And we'll send you the workbook to make sure that you've got some pre-work before you get to your one-on-one. Please take advantage of the one-on-one. Like it's I really promise we're going to diagnose, we're going to help you, and you're saying yes here, but then life happens. So I really encourage you to take advantage of that. It's my honor to do so. And I'll close by saying financial freedom to everyone on this call is absolutely available. It's never too late. You're not too young. You're not too old. You're not, whatever stories we have in our head, they're just made up. We have adopted these beliefs and narratives from our parents and from our culture, and they're all transferable. We can change them. Abundance is available to every one of us. And it's not that hard. So I just want to say thank you for being here. It's my honor, Elena. I'm one of my best friends in the entire world. And we just want to make the world healthier and wealthier. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share with you all tonight.
No, thank you for being here. The honor is ours. And thank you everyone for joining us. We can't wait to see you again in a couple of weeks for our next Tribe Talk. We've got some new topics that are going to be coming up. So when you go in to register, don't be surprised if the topic changes, just like it did tonight with Krisstina, which was a wonderful, lovely surprise for all of you. And we've got some other really great ones that the universe is bringing our way. And that's why we will be changing our topics coming up for the upcoming Inner Circle calls. So thank you again for joining us. We love you so much, sending you so many blessings. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.